Hi all, welcome to the next edition of Amnic Cast. Today we have Gopal Sharma, who leads engineering at Junglee Games, and I have been talking to him. We have some interesting topics to cover in terms of scaling. Being part of the gaming industry, scaling is something that has to be done, right? So we'll go through scaling, and then for that kind of scale, how do you platformize it? What are some of the DevOps and SRE practices that he has been adopting to do that part? We'll touch upon cost optimization, migration at large scale. Welcome to the stuff, Gopal. Why don't you give your journey in terms of take us through from how you actually came into this, right?
Yeah, thank you, Sathya, for setting up the intro. And yeah, so my journey is very interesting actually, as far as the DevOps practice is concerned. Uh, it is 2 decades, and because I started my career, and this was actually along with my education and everything, in uh, in some coaching giving to the new students related to technologies and all. So I was working with a few schools, computer schools, and from there actually I got the opportunity, first opportunity, and you will be surprised. I worked as a graphic designer as a first job actually I have done, and from there I started career, and at least for a year I worked as a graphic designer because during my all coaching and everything where I was working as instructor, I used to uh, taught graphic designing along with some automations and other stuff. But a first job I got as a graphic designer, and then actually when I joined my company, then actually I completed my graduation, and then after that I moved from as a system engineer as my first correlated job after 1 year. So my first company was Get It Info Service, which was in a print media. Earlier, you can see that all Yellow Pages directories, right? So I used to work for that particular Yellow Pages directory, and I used to handle the uh, all in network infrastructure and as a system engineers. And initially, it was called as a EDP solutioning, right? So data processing and all these things I used to handle. From there actually I started my career, and then after that I moved to Infomedia solution, which was also in a Delhi based, and then I gradually moved on some set of system engineer where I used to work on a Linux platform, initially Red Hat platform. So I am from bare metal, background. Initially I used to work on a data center day and night, and plugging up all cables and my computer come with a server directly, and used to work in a DC. So from that background actually generally I have come. So I worked on as a Linux engineer, and then I moved to Mumbai in uh, uh, that was actually in CNBC and IBM 7. So there actually I was handling the money control. This was the website, and I was the Linux engineer and system engineer of money control, and I was handling the stability part of the money control in Mumbai. I worked in electronic media as well in a TV18, because both are the same organization, right? So I worked in TV18, and in TV18 I had experience on their satellite and network data processing and live streaming. So that front actually I have worked along with them. Then after that, I again moved to NCR and I joined Ask Me. And Ask Me was the e-commerce, and here also it's the same profile. I was leading the team of DevOps, SREs, and handling the all infrastructure ecosystem. And from there actually Ask Me, then I moved in a service profile, service industry profile. So along with one of my friend, actually we started one service company, and we were Azure partner officially Azure partner, and we were giving a solution, Azure solution to the customers, multiple customers. So 1.5 year actually I worked along with him. Then after that, I just actually bored for that type of job profile because I generally worked on a product company. So then I moved in a 2017 in Junglee. I got the opportunity in Junglee Games. 2017 Junglee Games was a very small organization, right? It had only, I think it was 40-45 employees in the organizations, and I am the first leader actually who basically officially introduced a DevOps culture in organizations and created my own team. And I'm very lucky actually that a few team members are still with me. That's the reason actually we will be in a position to build that culture in our organizations. So from last 6 year actually, from day one, from scratch till today, we have created a one ecosystem of DevOps. Today we have employed 1,000 plus, and we are handling a complete, a very large ecosystem as far as infrastructure is concerned. We are the one of the biggest AWS customer, and we have a multiple products. And as far as the user base is concerned, recently we have celebrated 100 million users celebration we have done. So that user base we have right now, so you can understand that what type of actually load right now Junglee Games is handling altogether.
Hey, thanks, Gopal. That was an amazing introduction and good segue into our next bit, right? So you have seen Junglee Games from like as a startup to what it is with 100 million user base, scaling up. Why don't you take us through the journey of like how did you achieve that kind of a growth and what kind of tech stack went into scaling this kind of systems, right?
Yeah, Satya. See, actually, when I joined this organization, that time, I remember there was a 10 engineers was there in our organizations, and there was one CTO. And CTO generally used to handle the all infrastructure related task and everything. And as far as the ecosystem is concerned, one game, Junglee Rummy, this is our first game that we were having. And this game was running on a Java stack. It was OSGI framework completely. So as far as this infrastructure and DevOps ecosystem is concerned, there was nothing actually. We were only using a EC2 that time. That time we were on Azure, right? So we were actually using only virtual machines. We were saving, and for database we were having a MS SQL, and all logs, everything we were storing in a database, right? So, and as far as the monitoring ecosystem is concerned, uh, we had, I think we, on a initial stage, we had a New Relics type of setup. That's it. So that type of ecosystem was there when I joined the organization. Then, obviously, visibility and transparency was the major problem actually initially we faced. So initially, actually, we created our own team and hired 2 to 3 DevOps engineers in our organization, and then we started evaluating a few tools, uh, keeping the startup company in mind, because we focused largely on a open source stack. So initially what we thought that entire logging, that which is part of the database, we should remove it and we should move it somewhere else. Then our first project was a Elasticsearch cluster actually we created, and all game logs and all action logs and everything, all important data logs, we have actually moved on Elasticsearch. And after that, then all monitoring system we actually robust a little bit. And there's one more point. That time actually when I joined, DevOps and infrastructure was largely outsourced. So creating any VPN connection was taking a more than a day times actually, because send a request to the third party and then they used to create it. So that was very interesting. And then first time we created one VPN connection for end user within a 15 minutes. That was a celebration time in our organizations, right? In a startup company. So that type of setup actually we started, and we created a culture. And uh, then after that, actually, obviously, because this is a gaming company, this is, and traffic, and second is, this gaming company is without funding, because it is a real money business. It is a growing market, and growing very fast, actually very rapidly. Every month we are seeing a rapidly increasing our user base and concurrent user size. So keeping that in mind, actually, our data size, database size, everything was increasing very frequently. So every time we'll have to think that actually now what is the next we should do it. So then actually we thought, actually, that we'll have to move our entire monitoring setup on a Prometheus and Grafana ecosystem. Then we introduced our own cluster and created our own monitoring setup, so that all live issues we could handle very easily. Then after 2 years, uh, uh, that COVID happened, and you cannot imagine, during COVID, this gaming was booming like anything. We were not expecting that what will happen on that time. It was something, means 2000, I think it was 2019 and 2020 initial days, March or April month, when everyone was actually blocked in their house. But because everyone was at their home, our traffic get increased at 3x to 4x.
Wow.
We were not planned at all that what we should do it, but obviously we were on a cloud, and somehow we had a support from AWS side, that we on the fly we increased. Obviously we went down as well, we crashed as well, but on the fly we enhanced our infrastructure on a storage side, and compute side, increased around 5 to 6x actually our infrastructure within 2 months, and handled a 3 to 4x traffic uh, during that time. And then during COVID, because we were in a COVID for around 3 years, and we worked from home during 3 years, but we have done a lot during these 3 years. We have introduced different games. For example, earlier we were having only Junglee Rummy, then we introduced House That. It was a fantasy cricket game, and this new game we have actually created and deployed on a separate microservice ecosystem, which was on a Nomad. So this was also another challenge, right? It was not on a Kubernetes. Generally,
What?
people go on a Kubernetes, but we chose a Nomad, goal completely uh, 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 Google-based technology, G-based technologies. So it was completely on a Nomad, Consul, and that infrastructure. Our CI/CD pipeline was on a drone. So that we created by our own internally. And 2 years we run our house at traffic and load on Nomad architecture, and it was successfully done. But yes, we faced some challenges related to resources, because this was the new technology, and we were not getting a new resources related to Nomad. Though we had our internal resources, those people created that infrastructure, was handling it perfectly. But keeping that in mind, that in future Nomad we will not be able to survive with a Nomad, we migrated our all new products from Nomad to the Kubernetes and EKS, AWS EKS. So then we moved to the EKS, and right now in current stage we are running a multi-gaming platform on EKS, where Houset is running, where Poker is running, where Teen Patti and all other stuff, means around 6 to 7 games are running on a single Kubernetes cluster ecosystem. And we have a very robust observability ecosystem right now in place, We have a monitoring system in place that was a combination of open source as well as enterprise, New Relic plus Prometheus, Grafana, Loki, and all new technologies. Actually, generally we evaluated and we adopted, and so that type of ecosystem we have created as far as all tools are concerned and all technologies are concerned. So enhancement was a very interesting actually in last 5 years as far as Junglee Games is concerned on DevOps side.
Great to know like how you scaled and how you choose technologies and how you moved into Kubernetes. You also done large scale migrations, right? Like at this scale, like can you talk us about like how do you plan and how do you do migrations at scale?
Yeah, this is also interesting journey. First migration I remember I have done in a 2013 from bare metal to cloud, and it was disaster. It was bare metal to Azure, right? And 2013, I realized that time actually Azure was also not a mature platform, and obviously we had a third party partner as well for this migration activity, but we were clueless. Whatever our partner was saying, we were just doing it. And as is, we migrated our entire infrastructure from on-prem to cloud. That was on a Azure cloud, and after making live within 10 minutes, everything collapsed because we were not actually realized that apple to apple comparison doesn't work actually if you are on a cloud. So that was the first experience, very bad experience. And then after that, actually obviously after this migration, we took around 6 months for stability. Then we understand that IOPS on a cloud and IOPS on on premise is completely different. CPUs and vCPUs are completely different. Then after that, in Junglee Games, actually, when I joined, we were on Azure, but within a year, I planned to move everything from Azure to AWS. Though Azure was not a bad platform, it was a very good platform, but some issues we faced actually internally that was related to governance side. So keeping that in mind, we have done that migration. That was a very fantastic experience actually we had on a migration front. That whenever you plan for any migration, first of all, you should have a complete project management in hand. Means without project management, you cannot migration. So migration doesn't mean actually this is a duty of DevOps, right? Because you are migrating an application. So each and every department should be equally contributing in that migration, and there should be a proper plan where each and every departments and each and every verticals should share their thought process, that actually what is their expectations for that a new platform. Then after that, keeping that in mind, we should estimate actually our infrastructure, that right now if we are migrating from bare metal to cloud, then what is our current estimation of infrastructure, but what should be on a cloud, keeping that traffic in a mind, keeping that here we have a hard CPU, but there we have a vCPU. Here you have a red red hat actually a hard disk, but there you have only virtual hard disk with IOPS, provisioned IOPS and unprovisioned IOPS. So keeping that in mind, that benchmarking and estimation is very important. And first is a estimation of infrastructure, and second is what actually I understood from my experience is stress testing or load testing. Functional testing, generally people, everyone used to do it, and it works very fantastically. After that, people decide or team decide, yes, we are good to go. But until unless you are actually give your thumbs up on stress testing or load testing, you never actually think of moving away from one platform to another platform, because each and every platform has their own ecosystem pros and cons. So based on the that stress testing, then we should decide that actually that when you'll have to migrate your infrastructure, or you'll have to actually switch your DNS. So that was the another point actually, which was very important, that we always kept in mind. And yeah, your obviously testing team is very important. It was maybe it is functional testing, or it is uh, uh, load testing. So on that front, we were uh, we have uh, we have worked a lot. And one more point actually I just want to mention here, which is related to architecture, right? See, what happens generally, business says that we'll have to migrate our infrastructure on a cloud, right? As an engineer or as a leader, as an infrastructure leader, you should have that understanding, first of all, that what is our current architecture of application,
Mhm.
what it should be on a cloud. If you don't have that understanding and insight, it can be a disaster. Generally 90% actually business generally prefer the lift and shift. They are not actually bothered to moderate or transform the applications based on a cloud ecosystem. But keeping that in mind, we'll have to actually educate our engineering team or our business to do at least minimal transformation in their applications, right? Especially on a database side, because on a bare metal, generally we used to keep a very bulky servers related to databases and application servers. But on cloud, if you are 100% depend on DB, that will be a nightmare. So there are a lot of tools and technologies which is available on a cloud. So as an engineer, first you should get that understanding, that where you can use a memcache, where you can use a Redis, where you can use. So uh, focus is only to reduce a load on a database. So as much you will reduce a load on a database and keep it on your caching layer, that much you will be actually on a safer side, and you can actually fulfill the expectations of the business, the purpose actually of you migrating things on a cloud. So that was very important. So this is a very minimal tweak required on application side, but at least that we should do it proactively, rather than shifting everything on a cloud, and then we are thinking that yes, this workload we should move on a Redis or a Memcache or Elastic Cache, or any other services. So, and second is, as much as you are using a CDN, that is actually more important. Generally we don't do it on a bare metal or a different setup. So all these things actually, very small ecosystem changes, we will have to keep in mind always whenever you are migrating. So if these 3 4 things actually you will keep in mind, your migration will be at least on a very smooth way, and you will be able to handle perfectly that.
Nice. And just a follow up, right? When you did from this Azure to AWS, right? Is that more like you had a few services left over and you just moved to the AWS service, or like what was your thought process, or it was like finally you just got everything running on AWS and then did a DNS flip to just move it to there?
Yeah. So Azure to AWS, what we have done, because uh, we were running our infrastructure on Azure, right? It was production live. So we have created a parallel setup, because this was cloud to cloud migration. So 100% there was no much changes on application side. So what we have done, we have lift and shifted the entire infrastructure. We made few tweaks related to the elastic cache and their CDN changes uses. And because our major application, prime application, Junglee Rummy, which is running on a monolithic architecture and largely depend on a database side, right? And we faced a lot of issues on the database side on Azure, unfortunately, because it was running on EC2. So there also we migrated on EC2. But yes, we that time actually we got a provision IOPS. That was a very important key factor actually for us, that we used actually in our ecosystem. So we migrated everything as a lift and shift. We have done a stress testing 100%, and then we, on a local DNS, we completed the entire testing, and then one day we decided for switching the DNS. We took around 3 hours downtime that time, and within 3 hours, uh, because we were using MS SQL, so we have actually created a real-time log shipping, which was generally having a 2 or 3 minute lag. That's it. So we had a real-time data sync. Data was the most critical piece. Otherwise, rest everything actually be handled properly. So with a log shipping, we have created a pipeline between Azure and AWS on a database side, and then we decided that this day we'll have to switch the entire DNS. One problem was obviously there, that switching a DNS is not an easy task, right? Because you'll have to change your name server as well, because we had a name server on Azure platform. Then that we will have to shift on Route 53 or different ecosystem. Name server itself takes a minimum 2 to 3 hours for replicate, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it takes 24 hours also to populate entire the globe and all hopes. So what we have done then, in between during migration, actually we have decided to move everything on a Cloudflare. So Cloudflare is our web solution right now we are using. So what we have done, we have moved our DNS as offline mode on a Cloudflare and warmed up. So warmed up means internally we have warmed our DNS, and it was populated, but it was not live. So the day one actually we switched our internal DNS from Azure to AWS. It actually populated within a minute, and there was no downtime. So we took only 3 hours downtime for just for a database switching, some backend switching. That's it. Otherwise, DNS switches was very smooth. This problem uh, before me actually Junglee Games faced when they migrated everything from bare metal to Azure. That time actually when they switched the DNS, they took a downtime of around 2 hours. Then they reverted back because this was the business loss.
Mhm.
So resolution of DNS is very challenging thing. You will have to always think the solution before migrating or before switching the DNS. So we generally used a third party solution where we can cache the entire DNS. So
Got it.
that way
Got it.
we handle.
Got it. Nice. And moving into the next subject, right? At this scale, right? You are now having multiple product lines, multiple games. How did you platformize this whole thing so that you can keep actually doing continuous integration, deployment, right? What was the overall thought process in terms of both process as well as the platformization from DevOps and SRE perspective?
Yeah, so obviously this is ongoing transformation phase, right? Because Satya, you cannot do it from a day one. I remember when I joined the organizations, deployment, build deployment was a completely in-house development. Means my developer has created one admin tool, and and from that admin tool, actually, a team used to deploy code. So when we joined, actually then we transformed it, and then we introduced a Jenkins in organizations around 4 to 5 years ago. And then we started creating a build from Jenkins and deploying jar files through a Jenkins to the all servers in a gaming ecosystem. And in today's, if I'm talking about then what we have done, I will share the today's scenarios. That today I have around 18 to 20 DevOps engineers are working in Junglee Games, and we have divided our entire ecosystem, sorry, a DevOps ecosystem in a two part. One is a platform engineering, another is a SRE engineering. So 2 years ago, what how it was that we had a separate live ops team. Those job was only monitoring and creating a war room and handing over a situation to the DevOps and engineering team. Then recently, what we have done, we have merged SRE with a live ops and created a one SRE team, and we are working towards that. So SRE team job is actually 24 by 7 monitoring. SRE team job is, if any live ops if any live issues happen, then we are using Opsgenie for incident management, and we are using Slack very intensively. We have created a Slack bot, incident bot, where actually anyone create for with a single button a Slack bot, a pop-up comes, we can put our entries that yes, this product, the problem is happening, and then we have a backend rota and everything in place in a Opsgenie. It communicate to the Opsgenie, and call automatically call goes to the all respective engineers and everywhere. So that type of ecosystem we have created as far as the incident management is concerned, so that our mean time to acknowledge and mean time to engage reduce. So that we earlier it was around 10 minutes to 15 minutes, now it is 2 minutes only, within 2 minutes, because everything is automated. Call goes automatically, acknowledgement happen automatically, war room gets create automatically. So, and when the call goes, everyone will join that war room and get engaged and start working for resolution. So this is helping for meantime to resolution as well. So this is SRE duty. SRE's duty is to resolve that incident, and then after that following up for the root cause analysis as well, for a permanent solution. So keeping follow up with the DevOps team, keeping follow up with all developers team. So this is a duty of SRE. So that type of ecosystem we created. Apart from that, SRE help for all L1 and L2 related issues to the developers. So they work closely with our QA testing team. They work closely with our developer team. They generally gets involved for all deployment, build deployment, everything. For deployment perspective, right now we are using a Jenkins for build creations and Argo CD for a deployment. So this is a recent, right now we are using, but earlier we were having only Jenkins. So that tool we have actually somewhere leveraged this or facilitated everything to developer. So we have given this autonomy to developer to do their deployment by their own. But if any support required, then SRE comes in a picture and they help. So this is a SRE role, and another is a platform engineering DevOps team. Those generally work for L3 and L4 related issues. Apart from that, they used to work on a bigger projects like infra SDLC and IAC automation, all of entire infrastructure, ephemeral environment, which is very much required in today's world, because we have a multiple product and we have around 50 testing engineers, right? So if we have a 50 testing engineers, everyone has a requirement, right, for infrastructure. So we require the ephemeral environment so that uh, we can provide infrastructure within a 5 minutes or 10 minutes to the testing team for testing purpose, and then after that we can scrap that environment. So those type of requirement has come. For that, actually we created a separate platform team, and that platform team is working on a bigger project for maturing the DevOps culture altogether and facilitating to the engineering team, so that we can reduce the workload from SREs, and we can enhance the productivity towards an organization. Apart from that, what we have focused a lot on observability side, right? Because what we realized in last 4 to 5 year experience, whenever an issues happens, identifying the root cause is very challenging, because generally what happens, uh, DevOps has to deep dive on a system, on a servers, or or accessing a logs and then tailing that logs and then showing that logs. So it was not that much effective help to the developer. So then we have uh, taken a few a third-party solution as far as the observability is concerned, and that worked well. For example, right now we are using CoreLogix as observability tools, and we centralized entire logging ecosystem of our applications, all our AWS tools and everything on that CoreLogix. So whatever you want to search, you'll have to go to only that CoreLogix and you'll have to search it. So whenever any, and based on that, we have created a lot of anomalies alerts. So whenever any incident happens, immediately this SRE team used to get a few related correlated alerts, and then based on that they can point out on that particular log that yes, problem is somewhere here only. And then uh, after that, mapping these logs, and because these CoreLogix is somewhere we have integrated with a New Relic from a backend, then we have all distributed tracing on a New Relic. Based on that, we can easily identify that what is the part of code where the exception has come. So that type of ecosystem we created, which helped us to actually reduce the RCA, root cause analysis time. So that that area we have worked a lot, and it took a time, but yes, that is something actually we thought that it was a very big problem statement generally we face, and we try to resolve somehow. But yeah, still actually we are working towards that area. Sorry.
Thanks, Gopal, for talking about the entire platform side and SRE side. Let's also talk about how do you manage cost, right? And how do you actually make sure that it runs in an optimal way?
Mhm. See, actually, this is a more interesting topic as far as the business is concerned, right? Uh, when we move on a cloud, business is very enthusiastic. Yes, we are on a cloud. We will get something. We will productivity will increase, application efficiency will increase, and stability has come. But yes, whenever you go on a cloud, and especially if you lift and shift your entire ecosystem on a cloud, the major problem comes on a cost side. Then, first of all, first thing actually, what I experienced actually, and what I learned from my experience, always keep transparent with the business on a costing side, especially that when you are moving your architecture, that time also you should give an entire estimation and cost estimation to the business, that this will be your first initial month costing, and this is a path of downsizing or optimizing the infrastructure after migration. So that transparency need to be given to the business. That is very much critical. Otherwise, I have experienced and I have seen it is generally surprise to the business every time that how the cost is getting increased drastically, and no one is able to understand that what is the reason behind of cost increase. So what we have done in a Junglee, that actually I will tell you, because we when see, we have done one more migration actually in a Junglee from because earlier we were on AWS AISPL account, but as Junglee Games is acquired by Flutter International, one of the biggest gaming company in our world, and then after that there was a ask to migrate everything from AISPL to Amazon INC. So that time when we migrated, there was a duplicate cost actually came in a picture, and cost increased. Then then we took that project on a war foot, and then we learned a lot that how to handle this. First of all, if you will think that a DevOps or infrastructure team alone can handle or optimize the cost, it is not possible every time, because the main problem is a focus area. DevOps focus area along with the cost are on some different things as well. So in my experience, I think we require someone from project management side on a permanent basis, especially who can represent the business side as well, right? So like in a Junglee side, what we have done, so our founder appointed one project manager from their team on a cost. So first weightage came from founder side, that he appointed one representative and his duty is only represent the reports and taking an input from all engineering and all stakeholders and just showcasing to the business. That's it. So it creates a remarkable change because first of all, everyone is accountable now. First of all, that guy is a representative of founder, that guy is a representative of business, then accountability automatically comes. So his duty was that we used to have a one call in a week, and this is still continuing. And we used to discuss that what is our monthly plan, what is our weekly plan, whether we don't have anything for a week, though we sit and discuss about it. So initially stage, what we have done, so we have saved around 200k USD in a quarter. How we saved that? Only this is the only basic activities that we have done, that we identified our 3 to 4 areas where the cost increased, and generally we see cost gets increased either on a compute side, second on a storage side, third is on a S3 side. So these three are the major contributor. So optimizing compute and storage, AWS can easily help you. They can give you the entire data, and that actually where you have to do a right sizing, where you have a problem of instance type. So they can help you. You can work along with them. Storage, uh, generally whenever you create any infrastructure, you generally choose a wrong instance storage type. For example, you choose gp2, though gp3 is larger cheaper than gp2. io1, if you're using, you should move it on a io2. Storage size should be actually calculative. It shouldn't be like that. Actually, if you are creating an infrastructure and just adding 500 GB in a first go, that create a very big problem, that your disk size is not optimized. So generally, we have seen that these type of problem that we identified, we created a complete checklist that how much we'll have to resolve this month, this week, how much we will have to resolve this week. Third was the S3. S3 is a very major point. If your data is growing and if you have a pipeline where data engineering and business intelligence team are working, and you are creating an ecosystem of a data engineering standpoint or data lake standpoint on S3, your cost will increase like rapidly. Anything. It is not a storage cost. It is their get and put API cost, right? That comes because your developer doesn't know that how to use the S3. What they do generally, that they copy the entire data and read entire data, move entire data to any other bucket. So that cost it actually a lot, because there is a lot of read APIs, lot of get APIs, lot of put APIs, write APIs used to execute it in a backend, which cost a lot. So we have actually identified, first of all, storage, that we have a version control enabled, where it is required, then we have done it. If not required, we have removed it. Second is we have optimized the get API calls and write API calls. That reduce the cost drastically as far as the S3 is concerned. So that we have done. We smartly use saving plans, and so so nowadays, so actually what happened after 3 to 4 months, we were earlier we were actually not 100% utilizing our saving plan, but after that we were on a position that we were 120% over provisioned as far as the saving plan is concerned. So that much we optimized our infrastructure, especially on a EC2 size, especially on a storage size, especially on S3 side. And another point comes to the instance type. That is also a very important piece. If your application is memory intensive, you should use a memory intensive. You shouldn't use a blindly C series for a memory intensive services, or if your service is more on a compute side, then you should use a in, intensive. Third is, now actually especially on a AWS, we have a Intel, we have a Atom, we have a Graviton, right? So you can choose actually which compute you should require it. If you are using scaling, and if you are using your infrastructure for auto scaling and a rolling setup, then I think Atom and Graviton works perfectly well along with Spot as well. Intel doesn't require, because you can scale any point of time of your Atom. Largely on a database purpose, you can use Intel. So that decisions generally help you to optimize the cost. So this is all a practice. It is all ecosystem, but most important is a weekly tracking. You should have a weekly tracking. You should have a weekly target. You should have a monthly target. There should be a specific, at least 1 hour discussion on a cost analysis, that how much you saved a cost, from where you saved a cost, and what is the plan of next 1 month. If you, if this thing is in your practice, everyone can achieve. There are a lot of areas where actually optimization you can do on a very much regular basis. Apart from that, right now a lot of tools are coming, so there are a lot of third party companies are also helping. If you are not internally capable to do this, leverage those companies. Actually, they will also help on those areas.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Gopal. I think it's amazing stuff in terms of talking about cost as a culture, right? Because it's not a one-time stuff. You need to keep doing it, and I think you have been doing it for quite some time in terms of doing weekly reviews, and I think we have come to the last part of it. Like, any top three things that you want to share to the audience in terms of, you covered a lot from scaling to architecture, SRE practices, cost optimization, right? How would you summarize, and what are the top three takeaways that you would want to share it to the audience?
Yeah, so I'll tell that DevOps is, first of all, not a team. DevOps is a culture. That what I learned from my experience. And DevOps is not a duty of one team. DevOps is a duty of entire engineering. And so we are a facilitator. We are not actually just providing the information and all. We will have to create a culture where there is a one team who is actually creating, who is working on the tools, who is helping engineering for enhancing their productivity. So that is the area I generally largely focused, and created a platform engineering team which helped actually my development team for enhancing their productivity. Now what is happening, that now they are actually deploying any code flawlessly without any help. So that helped a lot. Second is what I learned, and I include as well, that DevOps also require a project management properly. Generally, actually, a team used to have, all engineering team used to have a technical program manager and project manager. But DevOps, if you will include a technical program management in a DevOps, this change actually help a lot, especially in a DevOps side. And it somewhere actually organize on a governance front. And DevOps can actually reduce their workload, and it create some collaboration between business and DevOps, business and development team. So that actually second part is very important. Third is, now in future, what is going to be uh, now in India. It was there in other countries, especially in Europe, but now in India, the largely focus in few areas. One is 100% observability and monitoring. But second, what we are thinking is going to be a very hot topic is the BCP and DR, because now compliance and governance is going to be take is going to take a top seat along with along with the security. On that perspective, DevOps and DevSecOps, these two role and these two collaboration, which is the most important in going forward, along with a BCPs. business continuity plan, DR plan, because those are the part of compliance uh, uh, and governance standpoint. So I think DevOps need to focus on these areas as well. Security, I can say in India is still in very immature and very, we are right now on very reactive mode. But that is going to be a very much proactive in near future, and we'll have to think of. And if we will think as a DevOps engineer on a security front, this will keep always you are ahead as far as the uh, complete ecosystem is concerned.
Thanks a lot, Gopal. It was amazing and it was very interesting to actually get your perspective. And thanks for being part of Amnic.
Thank you. Thanks, Satya. It was very nice talking and very nice discussion with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.